Talk to me, Majestic talks. Come and talk to me. Talk to me, Majestic talks. Come and talk to me. Majestic talks. Come and talk to me.
Hello there. Hello and welcome to the Majestic Talk Show. I'm your host, Latasha Morgan, certified Christian life coach, certified professional life coach, board certified master Christian mental health coach, and a whole lot of other goodies. Y'all, I am so excited because we have a great show for you today. Today, our title is Breaking the Cycle from Generational Trauma to Generational Healing. And we're going to be exploring the lasting impact of slavery on our mental health and the path to collective healing. So we have today Dr. Rhonda Turner, Dr. Nikki Harris, and Dr. Jeannelle Perkins here on the show with us today. Let's welcome them all to the show. Hi, Dr. Perkins. How are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
I'm blessed. Thank you so much for being here. You want to introduce yourself to everyone? Let everybody know who you are.
Sure. Dr. Jeannelle Perkins. I originally live in Charleston, South Carolina at this time, but I'm sitting in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam at this moment. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist who takes the opportunity to assist all communities with finding the authenticity of relationship and how they want to manifest that. And I really delve deeply into the mental and emotional health space. So I travel the world assisting other counselors in understanding how to be culturally humble before cultural competence takes place. Because we can read a book and understand that, but if we are still living in these biased spaces, it doesn't lend itself to really healing those who need it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. Welcome to the show. And
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for being here. Dr. Turner, Dr. Rhonda, how are you doing?
I am so well, and how are you today?
I'm blessed. Welcome to the show. Thank you again for being here for the third time.
Always nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I love having you here, all of y'all here. But go ahead and tell everyone who you are and what you do.
So, listen, I am Dr. Rhonda Turner. I am actually a high school counselor. So, I have a master's degree in mental health and marriage and family. I have a nonprofit called For Knowledge is Power, where I take youth around the world on college and historical tours. And then I do up under my For Knowledge is Power different workshops, different family activities. I am actually getting ready August the 1st and 2nd to host my 5th annual marriage awards in Orlando, Florida for Florida married couples.
Oh, that's amazing. See,
Yeah.
we have the right people on the team tonight. Let's welcome Dr. Nikki Harris. How are you? And welcome to the show.
How are you? I'm so glad to be here. I am Dr. Nikki Harris.
Uh-oh.
I am chiming in from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am an educator by training, but I also do a lot of work with marriages and family from both the faith-based aspect and community-based aspect. Been working with families now for over 20 plus years. And here in Tulsa, we do a lot of work to build strong, healthy marriages and strong, healthy families. So I'm
Oh,
definitely excited to be here. and just, have a good time with these incredible, phenomenal women.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. We're so glad to have you here. So let's get into it. Again, we're talking about breaking the cycle from generational trauma to generational healing. But before we go into it, now we're gonna talk about, like I said, we're gonna talk. It's just like a counseling or a therapy session, right? We're gonna talk about the past. We gotta understand why we have the trauma first. How is it showing up today in us, and how we can break the cycle so that we can be healed from it. So it's just like a therapy session, but it's not. Okay, so the first segment is we're gonna talk about how the trauma started, a historical foundation. So we want to know what happened during slavery so that we'll know how we got there. But what does that title say to each one of you? What do you think about that title? How does that resonate with you? Dr. Harris, you can go first.
For me, it just really speaks to how we got here. Basically, we look at it from the aspect of slavery, understanding that that really began the breakdown of the black family, or just, I'm going to say the black family, because when we were taken from our land and brought over here, we were split. We were not allowed to come together. So to me, that was the inception of generational trauma. That was the inception of fatherlessness. That was the inception of all things going wrong, quote unquote, in the family unit. That, to me, that's where it began. And so I think in order for us to fix the family or fix the problem, we've got to go back to the beginning. And I do know, I think it's a term, is it epigenetics? I might not be saying that the right
Mhm.
word, but we carry trauma in our DNA. And so we've got to figure out where the trauma comes from so that we can heal the trauma. And if we don't go back to the beginning, we're not going to be able to get to the future effectively.
How about you, Dr. Perkins?
So I agree with that. I definitely do. And I think the other component of that is having an understanding of what it looks like to accept that there is truth in trauma. And once that acceptance takes place, gaining an opportunity to move the mindset from victim to abundance, and
Mm-hmm.
then taking control, because you have so much more power when you understand and accept that the trauma is true and that it's real, and then have this incredible opportunity to decide how you want to work through that trauma.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Turner?
What you want me to say? They said it all. I mean, but what I can say, look at 12 years a slave.
Mm-hmm.
Listen,
Okay. We have been through some stuff, and accepting is possible. But do they know how?
it's
Mm-hmm.
good. It's
You don't
good.
know how to accept what we've been through, because we don't have people really focusing on how to learn and use the tools to become a
Mm-hmm.
better person and being able to forgive and work through it. But y'all said it all. I don't need to even speak on that, but y'all did. That's what it is. Uh-huh. She liked
Okay.
me on here. That's why she got me back on here. That's what that is.
But I
All right,
think that that's
Rhonda.
real, Dr. Turner. I think, when you talk about the idea of what is acceptance and what does it look like to walk through trauma in a
Mm-hmm.
space where you can say, this did happen to me and my people, and I do
Right.
carry that forward, and I accept that that's true. And now what?
And now
And you
what?
get to
Hmm.
determine what that is. And that's the generational component, I think. I think that's the component that, and now what is, what do we decide we're going to do that may be different from what the norms were and what was taught. We now get to
Right.
write the history very differently. It's our narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I
It
love that
is.
you
Now
talked
that is.
about that being our narrative, because it's a lot of times when we deal with trauma. I read a quote a few years ago, and it talked about not sanitizing people in your story, because a lot of times when we deal with trauma, I know at least in the black community, we are trained to cover the culprit. we are trained what goes on then in this house stays in this house. And so we have a lot of
Stays in this
people
house.
that are in bondage to the trauma because they don't feel the freedom or the liberty to really tell their story without without sanitizing what is the word I'm looking for? Not assailant is not the right word I'm looking for, but the person that causes the trauma, if you will. A lot of times when we tell our story, try to own our truth, we sanitize parts of the story and we sanitize the people in the story who really are filthy. Let me just say it that way.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. That is so true. So trauma didn't just happen. As we said, it was actually engineered. During slavery, Black men, women, and children were systematically dehumanized. Families were deliberately separated, as you said, Dr. Harris. Women were violated. Men were publicly beaten to destroy their role as leaders and protectors. Children were sold off and never seen again. Just imagine the trauma a mother would face seeing her child being sold off to somewhere else that she probably would never see that child ever again. And if that child escaped slavery and went over to Europe or somewhere, she still that chance will be even smaller of her seeing that child. And sometimes those people didn't even last 20 years. Sometimes they worked them so hard that they died. Some of them died young. And just think, okay, let me finish this first because men were publicly beat to destroy their role as leaders and protectors. Children were sold off and never seen again. Enslaved girls and women were stripped naked in public before being sold. Their bodies were inspected like livestock, often groped or violated during sales. Here are two stories. Sarah Gudger, a woman enslaved in North Carolina, once said, well, here's a quote from her: "They beat us and bred us like cattle. My mama cried every night till her eyes went blind."
My God.
Fountain Hughes said, "We wasn't allowed to think, just do. You don't know what freedom is till you ain't got it." From these wounds came the roots of emotional suppression, broken trust, generational shame, and relational dysfunction. Patterns we still see in our families today. And that's why I wanted to do this year of how on the theme how slavery affects our mental health today. Because I started wondering, why are we still doing these things? Where did this stuff come from? Where did the absentee father stuff come from? Why we have so many people on child, they rather pay child support but not deal with their child? Why, or not pay child support at all? Why do we have people who are molesting their children? What is this coming from? Why do we even have serial killers in the first place? Those are some of the things that I was thinking about. Why are these things happening? And then as I've learned in pastoral counseling and coaching, you have to go back to the past to see why we're here right now in the present. So I started doing research, and some of this stuff was crazy. I mean, I could not see how in the world you could rip a child apart. I mean, just because you were mad because your husband was sleeping with the Black lady. I mean, what you gonna do? I mean, is that the child's fault? I mean, the woman most likely didn't want to be abused by your husband in the first place. So maybe put the blame on your husband. And let's go on from there. Then you have how they were buck breaking. And I saw where the molestation could come from, because they would blindfold them, put a sack of their head, or do something that would keep them from knowing who they were actually having sex with. To me, that don't make sense to me. You're using them as cattle, and then you are branding them. I mean, today we see these things as something awful that you should do. You're arrested for this stuff today, but what about yesterday? I mean, it wasn't bad then. And just imagine, we talk about the trauma people are facing when they are abused, when they're raped, when they're molested today. And we think it's so horrible. And we think we go through a lot today, but back then it was even worse.
Well, child, you just added Fruit Loops and Cheerios and I mean,
Cornflakes,
my
cornflakes.
cornflakes and frosted flakes, bananas, granola. I mean, my word. And I don't even know if you get milk or water with that. Oh my
Normally you
goodness.
don't if
Yes.
you're in the slavery time.
Well, there you have it.
Listen,
There you have it.
listen.
So look, we were crunching granola before we knew it. So it's very interesting. So all of that has so much incredible impact, right? So you think about the psychological impact of it. I think it was Dr. Harris who was talking about the epigenetics of it. And when you consider that the epigenetics are really about the telomeres that sit at the end of each strand of the genes, right? And so what we know from recent history and study, in 2020, there was a study that came out, and I'm not recalling the doctor's name at the moment who did it, a host of doctors, but they determined that the telomere is shortened in African Americans because of that history of trauma. So when
Wow.
you consider that race-based traumatic stress, so RBTS is the same as PTSD, it's a psychological impact from racism that has occurred from history into what we see today. It just looks a bit different today, right? It has on a nice suit and tie versus wearing a hood, if you will. And so when we consider that that is a truth, that means that there's still this psychological impact that is occurring on a regular basis. And that means that, yes, when we're taking the opportunity to review the history, we also have to take the opportunity to recognize the mental and emotional impact that that's having on the neurological system for today.
Mm.
So we're talking about what happened to a people physically that really is transposed into their psychological being, and they both impact one another. So we could, I mean, go deep into that bowl of cereal and talk about obesity and hypertension, and we could talk about the molestation that takes place and the whys around it comes back to that psychological state of mind. They abused me. I don't know how to handle the emotionality that comes with it, the shame that comes with it, the guilt that comes with it. So I abuse in turn.
That's
And
right.
it's not until we change that mindset that we're going to see any type of healing take place.
I think, Dr. Perkins, you laid that out so beautifully. And as I've been sitting here listening to you, it kind of go entwine. I've been reading this book called The Body Keeps the Score. And so there is a, I guess it's a podcast, not a podcast, but there's an audio book for it. And then there's a workbook because I do a lot of work with, healing and helping people navigate, those things. And the thing of it is, you don't really realize how much your body or your DNA carries trauma. And it goes into, as you mentioned, obesity and all of those things. I can even pull stories and data from my own life to kind of roll it into how trauma affects, your diet or how you are in terms of how we eat. Now, if we go back to slavery, we know that we had to eat what was left, right? And so that means we ate all the unhealthy things. We were getting the scraps. Now, we made it taste good. We made it look good. But in turn from eating those things, we had the high blood pressure, hypertension, all of these things. Now, we could have done well with the greens and getting the, the leaves off the fruit and just eat off the vegetable and just eat the leaves. But no, we had to have hot sauce and black pepper and all these different things that we added into the food. So the reality of that is we have to even heal, not just the mind. Well, we have to heal the mind, absolutely. But then we also have to heal our habits and behaviors, right? Because what we think directly impacts our habits and our behaviors. And when we start looking at that family construct of bad habits and behavior, then we need to see, well, where is this coming from? Because all of it's learned. Behavior is learned. You learn it. So you come here an empty slate. You're not born with bad habits. You're not born, with unhealthy mindsets is learned. So now we've got to go back and let's see who's teaching this, who's teaching the habits, who's teaching us how to think, where is it coming from? And so that means we've got to go and heal almost a generation in order for it to infect change this way.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Dr. Harris and
Dr. Harris,
Perkins.
Dr. Harris, they still have their hot sauce and
Well, but those are actually coping skills, right? That hot sauce and that seasonal, and they are adding to the comfort food so that you now feel like you have the flavor you need to just settle your spirit.
That's
Think
good.
about that for a moment. That's a coping skill.
until
So
you can't use hot sauce anymore because your body is all messed up inside.
But you don't realize that. See,
That's right,
the
you
thing
don't.
is, we're born with 6 emotions, only 6, right? So if you think about it, we're talking about anger, happiness, sadness, surprise, disgust, fear, and that's it.
Wow.
Everything else, as you said, Dr. Harris, has to be taught. It has to be learned. But they're usually learned out of what? Anger, sad, but barely sad. Because you don't know you're sad. You get mad before you're sad, right? You're angry and you act out of that. But you don't even recognize surprise because we think surprise means scary. Don't be surprising me, right? We don't think of surprise as excitement, joy. So if we only have these 6, and as slaves, we're never able to have an opportunity to learn what it was to be happy or what that looked like, except on Sunday when you could put your hat on and dress in your Sunday best, which is a whole nother set of coping skills and all the stuff that we buy and do. Comes right out of slavery, right? Except that you could be fearful of the master. So you learn fear, but you were born with it as well.
That's
So
good.
think about that for a moment. You carry all that through because no one ever taught our ancestors how to enjoy surprise, how to see happiness as not just I don't, mess around and try to be happy waiting for the other shoe to fall. But I look at it like this: happiness is fleeting. I had a cup of coffee and it's hot, I'm happy. It gets cold, I might be a little sad, but joy is knowing I got a microwave.
That's right. So I can be happy again.
So I can get back to it. Learning what makes you happy, learning how to get back to it each time is what we're needing to teach. We can't change a whole generation, but we can start changing the narrative of the next generation.
Well, we just wanted to go ahead, Dr. Perkins. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey,
we were like, okay.
I just want to listen. Listen.
This is what I do all the time.
Latasha, don't ask me no questions. Don't ask me no questions. Let Dr. Perkins go ahead.
I can't with y'all.
Preach.
Because I mean, she just was giving it all out, what she wants.
Yes. Preach.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. This is what I do all the time. When I'm out teaching in the world and teaching counselors how to work with us so that we have that therapeutic alliance, they can't all look like us because there's just not enough of us to do that.
That's real.
So I have to find a way in the writings I do, the books, the publishing of articles, to help people go, oh, I never thought about it like that. So rather than putting it in the PhD terms, I'm trying to break it down and make it 4th and 5th grade.
Yeah.
So that we can all partake.
Yeah. Hey.
And that's so good. I think, just kind of talking about those 6 emotions and how to really regulate them. I think because we were not taught how to regulate emotions, right? We know how to get angry, but we don't know how to regulate. And so, or even have that concept of, regulating your nervous system, or we don't even have that as part of our language, as part of our conversation. And so, like you said, of training the next generation on how to do that. So I have young adults and I have to try and talk to them about how to, regulate yourself, this is a term that I use in my house, get your life. So, but teaching them how to navigate through those emotions, they're very real. How you feel is real and relevant, but how you respond, we need
That's
to fix
right.
that, because
Yes.
your feelings are real, they're valid. I understand what you're feeling, but we've got to have a positive way for how we express what we're feeling. And so I don't think that's a conversation that we nearly have enough, especially in the Black community. We don't talk about it enough. We just know how to clown and all of the things. But if we had some more, as Dr. Perkins said, if we would educate a little bit better, I think that we can start healing this next generation. But we've got to teach them how to do it. And it's a learned behavior.
And we do have to teach them how to do it. But you know, in our society today, who's teaching? Who are they listening to?
That's good right there.
You know, it's hard to grab them when it's always the cell phone or the music. You know, they believe in what the words in the song say before they'll believe what auntie say over here or what mama say. Well, mama said it, but that ain't what they said on the radio. That is not
Does
what.
that go back to them or to the credibility of mama and auntie in them?
Oh, that's
Right?
good.
Because if mama and auntie are telling you, I grew up in the church, don't nobody write me no letters. I love the Lord with all my heart. I'm going to be in heaven. Might not be on the same side if you got a bigger mansion, but I'm going to be there. So, but in the Black church, we have this tendency to do as I say, not as I do. Right? So if mama and auntie and them are out here running the streets when the church house doors is closed, and they're telling you that you need to be doing what the church house says, you're not going to pay attention because they lack credibility.
Yeah, that's true.
Pass the
That is so
collection
true.
plate.
That is so
So
true.
that's
That's a
not
word,
really
right?
about the child, the teen, the young adult, and where they're getting their information from. That's about the credibility of the household.
So that goes
Oh
back
yeah.
to that initial point that we talked about earlier. What goes on in this house, stay in this house. Like we're what are we modeling, for them? We are the first model for what a healthy family looks like, right? They teach us that it comes from the church, pastor chiming in, but it does not. That first model of family, that first model of what's healthy, that first model of how to behave comes from the address that the child comes from. And then, but if everything behind that door is toxic, you got one or two things gonna happen. The child is gonna repeat the behavior, or they're gonna do something completely different. That's just what it is, right? So if you come from a household where there's fatherlessness, that son might, engage in fatherlessness and have multiple children everywhere. Or that son says, "Hey, I don't want this." He becomes an incredible husband and father. So that's kind of the inverse of that. But again, we've got to start teaching how to have credibility. We got to teach mama and auntie, look, this is not okay. This is not healthy. Parenting classes in the Black community, we don't have them as nearly at the same rate as our counterparts.
So
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
that goes back to community too, right? Because if we don't have them as much as our counterparts, is it possible that we're really not seeking them?
That's good.
Because a lot of what we do, we set up organizations, usually a nonprofit organization and whatnot, such that that organization is now offering something for free. But what if you had to pay $5 or $10? Would you value it more than it being free to you? What if you paid that $5 or $10, and let's say that organization now is a LLC or an S corp, and you see that growing in your community and the way that's impacting the community overall, versus saying I want to be in the nonprofit space and nobody's seeing the generational wealth come to be, as well as we're not even investing in the class.
That's so
Because most
good.
of the classes that take place require in many communities, right? Because we're talking about the African American community, but don't get it twisted. Many people got issues.
Many.
Correct. Correct.
So, but there's this exchange of investment that takes place. And oftentimes we will remove an opportunity for a household to invest in themselves.
So
Because
good.
if you can buy a $200 pair of sneakers, you can pay $50 for a parenting class.
Yep.
That
Yep.
is so
Let's
true.
go.
That
Let's
is
go a
so
little
true.
deeper. If you can buy a $300 wig,
Listen. Let me listen.
Or more. Yeah.
yeah, I'm basic because I don't. Okay, but listen,
But it's true.
It,
It's true.
and I'm on that nonprofit world as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I look at them when it comes down to taking a 7-day tour for their kids. That probably some of them have never even left the area that they live in.
Yep.
And it's like pulling teeth to get kids involved. Because one kids to say, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to stay home. I don't want to go. What do you mean? For the price that we charge, you going on a 7 to 8 day tour around the world for spring break. And parents, one, I'm going to let him decide.
I don't
When
know
I was
that
growing
well.
up, when I was growing up, my parents was like, you
You
go.
going. That's it.
You don't dictate what you don't pay
You
no
going.
bills up in this house.
You
You're
going.
going. So when one of the other things, the way I was raised, every year, every generations get a little worse than worse. So where I was raised, I had fear of my parents.
Absolutely.
If they say you better not da, I'd be like, they say I can't go, and I just go in my room and cry half of the night.
Now,
But
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dr. Turner.
it's okay. You go.
So I'm listening, thinking about what you said. Now we have that one thing that you said, I had fear of my parents. So let's talk about the dichotomy of that, because that is, you've got the healthy fear of your parents, and then you got this fear that is slave induced. Let me explain. So a lot of way that we discipline in the Black community has roots of slavery in it. Think about it for a moment. So in some generations where we grow up in, it's the norm to get smacked from the kitchen to the living room, right? But then as we transition and we learn better, we do better, we start doing what we call assertive discipline, and we do other modes of discipline. So even when we start talking about our parenting styles and how we discipline, all of that goes into play. I'm from the same world of you going. Your choices at dinner is ketchup or mustard, not, well, I want chicken and we get no. You get what's on the table. So I do agree that there are changes and shifts as we transition from generation to generation. But then that concept of real teaching has somewhere gotten broken from the boomers to the Gen X. And as you start going on down, you see the breaking in how the teaching and training is taking place. Because now we're saying, I don't want to do to my children what my parents did to me. And some of those things I agree that we need to change and adjust. But some of those things we need to keep because it was healthy and it produced contributing members of society. But we still have to look at that dichotomy of that fear. If you're fearful to the degree that you can't breathe and now you are filled with trauma, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
So
yeah, that goes back maybe to the word reverence versus fear, right? That there's a healthy reverence for the fact that your mother, father, auntie, grandparent, or what have you cares for you. And so the teaching of what that looks like, I agree, comes out of the space of how were we impacted by slavery's abuse, right? And then, so one of the things that I take the opportunity to do in my office when I'm doing individual counseling is to ask my client, where did that come from? What happened that had you, and it doesn't mean that someone said it to you, could be that you just experienced it vicariously. but what happened that you made that assessment for yourself? And then is it still relevant for today?
That's so
And
good.
the challenge is that often it's difficult to change when a community is still steeped in the thing you need to change.
Oh, that's good.
So it may mean that the work we're doing becomes really impactful when we can ask the question, who told you that? Maybe not verbally, but in what you watched happening around you.
That's right.
And is that still what you, not they, what you desire for your life?
That's really good.
Yeah, that really is good because
Just take her off the
with
screen, Dr. Morgan. We just take her off the coach. Take her off the screen.
I'm in blackball.
Cause I'm like, I'll be honest, y'all done went through my whole notes here without me even saying.
We so sorry.
And I'm
We just got
like,
good chemistry. That's all.
yeah, because see, you covered fear-based parenting. I had that here. I had that here.
We sorry. We're gonna do better. We're gonna follow
No,
directions better. We sorry.
no. We're good. We are going to that section in a way, so that is good. Because we already talked about emotional suppression, all of that stuff is really good. What I was gonna say, because I'm like, forget the notes. Um, might as well, pretty much. But what I was going to say that was really key about what Dr. Perkins said about the community and trusting the community that you're in, or is what they saying valid? And see, when as I was growing up, yeah, my parents told me that too about hey, what you got to do whatever I say do. But
Yeah.
there were times that my dad would use a different parenting style with me, and he would say, I'm just going to come and talk to you. Because, see, I had a
Yeah.
mouth, you know. So he would come and talk to me, and I was bossy. So it didn't matter who you were. And so I was in leadership position too as a child. So he would just come and talk to me and have different conversations with me. And he would say, now, if you keep on, now I'm going to he would do that. But he was credible because the same thing he did in the house is what he did in the church as well, in every area of his life, even on his job. So he was credible to me. That's why I was able to follow after what he said. That's when he said, girl, you need to know the Lord, girl, you need to get in your word, girl, you need to have a relationship with God, girl, you need to. I valued that and I believe that. And it has carried me so far today. So many people don't have. That's why I treasure having a two-parent household and having my dad in the home. That even before he died, he even said, and I didn't understand why he said it, but he said, I'm sorry that I didn't spend enough time with you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You spent too much time. I mean, too much. Because he got us up in the morning and he would pray with us. So whatever he said for us to do, he taught us about ministry, how to minister to people. Even if you are saying, that means you need to shut up and be quiet. That means the Holy Spirit is over. He's done. You hush too. So
That's
all of
it.
those things, the credibility, like I said, he was credible. And in those homes, that's why I have people on the show, because I can understand other people's home and how they operated because the home I had. So credibility is important, especially in the Black church, because we have so many people falling away. And that's another reason we're experiencing the same thing, because the difference between the people back in the day, they had God to hold on to, and they had people around them was somewhat credible, because they were doing some things, they weren't supposed to either, but that they didn't allow that to dictate how their life would be, because they still showed up in church. You had masses of people in the church. Today, not so much. We doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but it's showing up too in the way we operate in the world today. So we have like 19 minutes and 50 some seconds, right? So since Dr. all of y'all doctors was operating, and I really appreciate it. It's good with me. Um I want you to talk to that person, Dr. Perkins, who's in a relationship, who's in a marriage. And some of the things you've been talking about is showing up in them. How can they break free from that? How can they become more open about their emotions
Mm,
and not have their children operating in fear because of the way they behave in the home? What can they do?
mhm. That's a great question. I think the first place I would start with is acknowledging mental and emotional health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is very difficult to walk through life with someone else and not acknowledge when there's anxiety present,
Mm.
when there is depression present, when there may even potentially be personality disorders that are present, and the impact of your life coming from, let's say, South Side, somebody else coming from the West Side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's different spaces and you live differently. So in your marriage, you have to have this conversation around mental and emotional health. What does it mean?
So good.
How does it function? Where did you learn it? Who talked to you about it? Because one of the things that I've found in more than 20 years of practice now is that we are busy talking about what kind of house we gonna buy, how many
Mm-hmm.
kids we think we talk about how many kids we're gonna have. Sometimes we just have the kids. We we might talk about being mad at auntie, uncle, grandma, all those kind of things that are kind of superficial. But if you're not mentally and emotionally well,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be so challenging not to flip off and cuss somebody out,
Yes, it is.
not
Period.
to throw things around the house, not to call your kids names that you really don't mean. I mean, in the moment you think you do, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't, because it has such impact later in life. Mental and emotional wellness is the greatest generational wealth we can even begin to give,
So good.
because without it, it won't matter how much money you leave,
Mm-hmm.
it's gone. Because the minute I'm stressed out, I got to go shopping.
Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
ooh,
The minute I'm pissed off, I'm gonna mess around and cap somebody and I'm gonna be in
Mm-mm.
jail. And then you're gonna have to
Mm.
pay to get me out. You're gonna have to
Mm.
put up the house
mm,
so that you can pay my bail. See,
Mm.
we're thinking about the wrong thing in marriage and relationship.
yeah.
We want to be talking about mental and emotional wellness. Where are you? When you sit down for premarital, let's talk about your mental health. How many people had schizophrenia in your family?
Come on.
Uh-huh.
How
Uh-huh.
many people had bipolar disorder in your family? How many people dealt with anxiety and you didn't know, or you now understand what anxiety is and it's showing up? W- Your mother was depressed. How do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
You think having an unclean house, whether spiritually or physically, is simply about nastiness? Nah,
Mm.
mental and emotional wellness.
Mm.
Can I
That's
say
good.
something she said about having things that you don't know that your spouse had, because that's not discussed in homes,
Mhm,
you know. So the mom may not know what her mom or dad had because they don't discuss those things.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
And it's so true because God knows, you want to know. I, you know, you,
Yeah.
I had to catch myself because I ain't want, but it is very important to know so you can have a relationship that matters. Let me
mhm.
say it like that. That matters. So I do agree with you Well, Dr. Perkins, I've been agreeing with you all night. So, but
Well, look, my latest book is Into Me See, Mastering Black Intimacy for the Relationship You've Always Wanted. And I delve so deeply into that mental health component because a lot of the teaching I do is around narcissistic personality disorder in the Black community. Ooh, child. People have some challenges with that conversation, and I'm okay with that. You can tell I'm going to heaven, so y'all can do what you want.
even if it's just over there, but you going, huh?
I'm gonna be there. So depression in the Black community, in women
Yeah.
and in men, and I really break it up so that you get this opportunity to think about, oh, is that what mama was living with?
Yeah.
You notice I didn't say struggling.
Yeah.
She was living with that because she still made it through. It might not have been the best, but she was living with that depression or living with that bipolar disorder. And the uncle you put upstairs that never came down and all that kind of stuff. We got to talk about where that comes from,
But
because
you
that's
would
not
never,
one gene.
but they would never say that's what
Nope.
it was.
Well, they didn't know. They
Right.
didn't always know.
Right.
They just
Because
knew
they,
something was wrong.
right. Well, the depression, it was never something. We hear more about mental health and different things now compared to when we were coming up. Like,
When we were coming up, they just said that's crazy Joe or that's crazy Auntie whoever. You know, that's just how they
Or
are.
lay hands on them.
yeah.
Listen,
Lay hands on
don't
them.
even start that conversation because my God, you know, coming from a pastoral perspective, now I started asking, okay, now wait a minute. Let's talk more, because sometimes it's not a demon, right? That ain't what it is. They need to lay on somebody's couch. Now let's have that conversation, because there is a intersectionality between you know, mental health and it's the church will call it demonology. So there's an intersectionality there that we don't talk about enough. And so that's the reason that we have some of the things that we have. So we have to really be careful as faith leaders to our understanding needs to be in the right place, because we laying hands on something that really needs a pill, or we laying hands on something that needs a couch.
Coping skills, because the word says that God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Well, here's my question. If he gave it to us, then whose obligation is it to keep it?
Right.
It's ours.
So if you're out here giving away your sound mind, destroying your sound, you come into the earth with power, love, and a sound mind.
Correct.
So somewhere along the way, sure, as a teen or as a child, as a teen and so forth, you may not have as much control, but you can't be 45 talking about what Grandpappy did to you when you were 12 for the rest of your life. At some point, you have to go and get some assistance.
But that's the conversation that we don't have enough of. Because after you get a certain age, you own your mental wellness. It is your responsibility to lean into healing. Now we'll go to the doctor for as one of my friends for everything. But when it comes to mental wellness and emotional wellness, we won't, you know, see about that in the same manner we would something else. Taking medication is okay. Going to therapy is okay. We need it. I tell people you need the Holy Spirit and you need a therapist.
Because they go hand in hand.
Yeah, because that's what the Holy Spirit is, a counselor.
Hello.
So and here's the challenge. We say that, and then therefore people say, therefore I have a counselor. But you know, there are these natural aspects. So this is, you know, like Dr. Harris. So my parents were ministers, and it was so here we go, right? So it's that space where you say, okay, well, wait a minute. If spiritually we're doing all we're supposed to do, when you've done all you know to do, then stand spiritually.
Correct.
Then and there is no change, then there's something naturally that has to take place. And that natural component is using your copay like you do when
Come
you go and
on.
get that medicine for hypertension. When your child breaks their arm, you don't say, well, let's just pray about it. No, you go and you get them a cast or a splint. Well, what happens when there is a traumatic incident that now there's a break in your psychological, neurological, the plasticity is no longer doing what it needs to do in order to bounce back? Don't you then use that copay to sit on a couch and say, here is what I'm doing that isn't working. I'm sleeping too much. I feel like everybody's against me. I feel like the other shoe is going to drop it anyway. That's a level of paranoia. It may not, come to the highest levels. Or I am experiencing nervousness in my body and I cannot function. I
See,
had my first ever panic attack.
I
What is
love how
that?
you
What does
I
that?
love how you brought that out, because there's a thing you mentioned about the natural component. We often use that scripture, first natural, then spiritual, but we want to apply that to that same concept. The Bible talks about, when Jesus was talking to the man at the pool, he asked him, said, will thou be made whole? So wholeness requires us doing both natural and spiritual things to have wholeness. And so I think we're just good sometimes with, okay, I got the spiritual part down pat. My husband, as a pastor, would always teach. Now, if the Bible talks about, us being, us being well, there should be a balance. You can't be all the way up here spiritually, but your natural life is in the toilet. Something is wrong. The Bible says, I wish above all things that thou mayest be in health, even as thy soul prosper, right? It talks about that. Well, if your soul is prospering and your natural life is not, something is wrong. And the adverse is also true. So we really have to look at that from a whole perspective on that. So I love the idea of, yes, we need to promote mental wellness, emotional wellness more in a marriage, because those are the questions that I ask when couples are sitting in front of me. Because there shouldn't be any reason why you are spazzing out, you trying to run over your spouse with a car. Let's talk about what's going on. Where did you see that? Did you see somebody run over somebody? So we have to, for real.
Well, and sometimes it's not even that you saw someone run over someone. It's that you never saw anyone have great conflict resolution skills.
That part.
So because they didn't have the skill, they couldn't teach you the skill. And all you know is that your anger is so intense that you have to have an outlet. And if you don't have a positive outlet, it's going to be a maladaptive behavior, unfortunately, like running over someone with a car. So it's really important that we think about it. If we're going to do biblical, spiritual and natural, there are many instances in the Bible where we can see that, for example, and you fix me on this. I think it was the Garden of Gethsemane where Peter cut off the man's ear.
Indeed.
Am I in the right? Okay. So that was some anger that he was dealing with. And right behind that anger, Jesus came and healed.
And did.
In the same instance.
And did.
And then Jesus taught Peter how to control and manage his anger.
Absolutely.
When did you see Peter angry again after that in a maladaptive way? You didn't.
You didn't.
You didn't.
You actually saw Peter have healthy conflict resolution skills when he and Paul had a disagreement. So you remember that they had a disagreement, and Peter was the one chopping off ears and all the things. Peter gonna fight. But you did see him after the church was incepted, after the inception of the church, you saw him and Paul have a healthy disagreement using healthy conflict resolution skills.
And where did he get it from? He was taught.
Jesus taught him. Jesus
taught
demonstrated him. And Jesus also taught them how to have righteous anger, right? Because we try to make Jesus be this good field church dude, quote unquote, but Jesus flipped over some tables, right? So we understand that you can be angry without sin. We understand that. So it's okay to flip a table. Now, how do we come back from flipping the table and then have a healthy conversation about why we needed to flip the table, right?
Yes. So didn't he tell them why he flipped the table before he flipped it?
He did.
That's my point. So you had an opportunity to fix the problem before I got here.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did
Hello.
not fix.
Hello.
I mean, I'm just,
I mean, let's just be real about it.
that, and so I say that in the context of this natural perspective.
Mhm.
If I come and say, hey, I'm having a challenge with the way that you squeeze the toothpaste tube. I know this is so, right? I Because this is real. This comes into
Mm-hmm.
the office. I'm having a challenge with the way that you're squeezing from the middle, and I want us to squeeze from the bottom. Now, I have two choices. I can get mad at you every morning because you squoze it
Let's close it.
from the
I
middle,
love it.
Close it.
right? Or I could go buy 2 packets of toothpaste.
Here's
This one is
yours,
yours,
and
and
This
this
here's
is
Mm-hmm.
one
my.
is mine. And now we're happy. I've
Mm-hmm.
resolved the conflict. Now, people will say to me, but we're supposed to be one. You still won with
Mm-hmm.
2 bottles of toothpaste.
or you can just where he squalls it at. You can squeeze it down.
That
There you
Mm-hmm.
have
part. That
There you
Yeah.
have,
part right
and
there.
that's small, but it's not really about the toothpaste. It's really
Mm.
about control.
I got it.
It's
Ooh.
about needing to be in control. And if you come to a place where you recognize that within yourself, then that toothpaste won't even be an issue because now you have to manage the fact that you're only in control of yourself.
Mm.
I talk about a sphere of control with my clients. In the center is the thing you have the most control over, and it is you. And that is smaller than that influence that you might have and the spaces where you have no influence whatsoever. When you learn how to be in control of you, what you like, what you dislike, how you want your life to look, the conversations you're going to have, the friendships you're going to have, etc., and you have that level of control, that toothpaste ain't going to make a hill of beans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Coach
At
Morgan,
all.
you know we ran out of time, and we so sorry. So we
Oh,
had to do this.
No, you haven't. You.
And we were going our own way.
We so sorry. We so sorry.
Hey, you all right? I own
look,
this show.
did we answer the question? That might be a better.
Yeah. Hey, I own my own show. I don't nobody else's time. So you're fine, and we are just at 57 minutes, so you're good. But you did answer the question. You answered a few questions, and so we're good. But what is one thing you would like to leave the people who are listening or will be listening to this show? Either one of you can go, whichever one of you want to answer. Each one of you can answer. We got enough time.
So I
Mm,
guess I will go. I think the thing that I think is important is that we have the opportunity to create a new history, right? We come from a history, but when we're born and we grow up and we, matriculate into adulthood, we have the opportunity to rewrite history and create our own history. So if there are things in the pattern of your previous history that you don't like, you can change that, and then you can develop a new pattern, a new system of behavior for your family to follow. Because the truth of the matter is, you're really responsible for the family you create, not the one you come from.
That's
So,
right.
in this concept, you can teach your children effective conflict resolution skills. You can teach them how not to run over people. You can promote, mental wellness and emotional wellness. You can encourage going to therapy and helping them utilize the copay that we pay so much for and helping them to utilize that. So I think what I want us to know and for people to walk away from this show is knowing that it's never too late to begin again. Right? It's never too
Mhm.
late to begin again. And you are in charge of your destiny. And I think that's the part that we got to get to. If something is not going right in your life currently, you can change it. Now, it may not happen
mhm.
overnight, but if you make systematic, consistent steps to changing a thing, then you're going to reap the harvest of those decisions. We are one decision away from a life that is changed and transformed.
Oh my goodness, that's good. One decision
Mhm.
away. Anybody else?
I would say one of the things that's very important is know your history,
Mm-hmm.
understand your history, but empower yourself to change.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think for me, it's going to be live a life of strategic emotional resilience,
That's good.
such that though you have generations that have experienced this immense trauma, that it can be devastating. That when you're strategic about your emotions, when you're strategic in your resilience, you have an opportunity to live in abundance.
That's good.
Lord, yeah, this has been an amazing show, man. I've just enjoyed sitting here listening to you all. So I want each one of you before we leave to tell everyone listening where they can get in touch with you. You can also leave your information in the comments of the YouTube show so that people can click on it. But I want you to tell people how they can get in touch with you. Dr. Perkins.
So I am Dr. Jeannelle, Jeannelle, on all my channels. So I'm Dr. Jeannelle at drjeannelle.com, Dr. Jeannelle on Instagram, and I think I'm Dr. Jeannelle, Dr. Jeannelle. That's what I am on TikTok. And you can see me at all kinds of conferences, from the International Association of Marriage and Family Counselors to Association of Marriage and Family, American Association of Marriage and Family Counselors, to all kinds of different spaces that I go at conferences and teach and do marriage counseling for various people. So I'm out of Charleston, South Carolina. So if you're in my area, look me up, y'all.
Yeah, South Carolina. Smiley faces, beautiful places, honey.
That's
Um,
right.
Dr. Harris.
So I am Dr. Nikki Speaks on Instagram, Dr. Nikki Speaks on TikTok, Dr. Nikki Speaks on YouTube, and Dr. Nikki Speaks Enterprises on Facebook. So all of those places on the socials, you can find me that way. And I do actually respond back. If you send me a message, it might take me a couple of days, but I promise you I'll respond back. So yes, I'm looking forward to connecting with you, and I'm chiming in from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Dr. Turner.
All right. Well, Rhonda Williams Turner on Facebook. For Knowledge is Power, which is my nonprofit, on Facebook. Women Business Connect on Facebook. Or you can just email me at info@forknowledgespower.org.
Oh, man. Thank you so much, ladies, for being on the show tonight. Honey, if no one got anything, what you need to know is it's your birthright to be healed and whole. Thank you so much for watching the Majestic Talk Show. I'll see you next month for the next show. Thank you again, ladies, for being on the show. And stay
Mhm.
here. Don't go anywhere.
Talk to me, to me. Majestic talks. Come in. Talk to me, to me.